Hi everyone, I'm Philippa from Here to Help Dancers. It's so good to have you here for our second Inside Dancers community hangouts online here at Here to Help. I'm really happy that you're here, and I just want to welcome anyone who this is their first time. And I just encourage you to go down to the bottom, scroll down to the bottom. There's a chat box where you can interact with each other. I'd love you to make a community out of this. So that's up to you. I can only share what I share. You guys are the ones that need to interact if you want to get the most out of the community feel of this.
I'm Philippa from Here to Help Dancers.
Oh no,
so
I've got my
here for our second Inside Dancers community
music coming up through the background. Sorry about that. Let's go back to where we are. Sorry, I just had my audio on, so I was hearing myself with a little 10-second delay. Okay, I'm obviously extremely good at technical things, as you can tell. No. Okay, deep breath. I'm getting off track already, and it's only been a couple of minutes. So this is, yes, as I said, our second monthly hangout. We're exploring the real issues that dancers face, and this month we're talking about coping with criticism, which is something that a lot of dancers struggle with. I know a lot of clients that I work with in coaching and counselling come up with that. I know I've experienced it myself, and it has a really big effect in the long term on dancers. So it's a really good topic to get our nails stuck into today. If you have anything that comes up today that you'd like to, talk about more, please, just get in touch. You can email me or contact me through my website, heretohelp.net.au/dancers. So we're going to look today at the effects on criticism on dancers, why it is that negative feedbacks, just cuts to the heart so quickly, and it's so hard to actually believe the positive stuff when that comes. We're going to look at some ways to become criticism resilient. And then we have some tips for teachers on how you can actually give effective feedback. So I know we've got some teachers here, and I love that that's, the community is not just for dancers, but the whole dance community. We need to help each other in order to create the kind of culture in our industry that will make dancers thrive. So thank you for all the teachers who are watching. It's lovely to have you here. So there's a lot of things that will affect our dancers' performance, and criticism is a really big one. I just want to share a few really common things that come up for dancers. So here's my slides. There's a few things that really commonly come up. So words like, you'll never be a dancer. I'm not sure how many dancers have heard that. And often these criticisms come when dancers are really young and vulnerable and not sure what to make of these things. So a lot of dancers have heard that statement or something similar, you'll never be a dancer. Another criticism that comes up commonly is something to say, you're not even trying. So a sense that, yeah, you seem like you're not trying when maybe dancers really are. And the third one is, your body's not right for ballet. So whatever that is, whether that's feet or turnout or flexibility or shape or size. There's often comments are made to dancers about their body size and shape that, again, really cut to the heart. So these things really do have a big influence on dancers. Okay, let me just come back. Great. So I know that for myself, I was, one of the big things that came for me was I was told, I could never dance a classical romantic ballet like Giselle. That was something that I was told I could never do. I was actually quite gifted in contemporary dance, modern dance, and classical. I found it hard to be free in my movements in classical, and so that makes sense when I think about it rationally as an adult now. But at the time I was devastated because all I wanted to do was be a classical dancer, and that really fueled a sense, there were a few times in my career when I could have moved into contemporary companies or roles, and I always kind of tried to steer myself back towards classical, and I think a lot of that had to do with this sense of I need to prove to that teacher that I can do this. And this is something that commonly happens. I remember being in class once with a colleague who was saying, I just, I really feel like this, I'm doing this for my old teacher, and the old teacher had died. and they were still being driven by that sense of I've got to prove myself to that person who told me I couldn't. So, you know, you can see these criticism can have a really long-term effect on dancers. So it's really important we think about, especially if there's teachers here that are working with young students. Really, you have such a valuable role in shaping students' motivation and how they actually, why they keep dancing. And so I suppose we just want to really make sure we're careful about how we use criticism. And we'll talk about that a little bit later for teachers. I mean, if anyone's seen the, you know, the viral Under Armour video with Misty Copeland, where, you know, they read out the letter from a school saying that she had the, you know, the wrong body and she was too old. And often these things are really not true. They're not validated. Dancers have potential, and no one can tell what will happen with potential except for the person within. And that person, whether that potential becomes realised, depends a lot on their confidence and their motivation. And these are things that criticism affects. So criticism affects our confidence because it starts to make us doubt or question our sense of, you know, invincibility. Young people tend to think they can do everything, and then someone tells them something like, you know, you've got terrible feet, so what's the point of even trying to, you know, pursue a career in this? And that really cuts them because they had the courage to be confident, and it says, hang on, I need to actually pull back here. I'm not actually safe stepping out into my courage and into my confidence. And when confidence gets compromised, our performance gets compromised, because when we stop trusting ourselves to dance at our best, then we really get stuck. Now, I did a Believe in Yourself masterclass earlier in the year. I'm going to be repeating that again, hopefully in a few months' time. So stay tuned if anyone's had issues with their confidence that have come up, whether that's from criticism or other reasons. But yeah, criticism has a big effect on confidence. It also has a big effect on your motivation. So criticism, as I said in, you know, the story that I shared of myself, it had an effect on my motivation. I was very motivated to prove that person wrong and to be able to do it. But that kind of motivation is a real negative motivation. It's motivation that is, it pushes you ahead to prove and to impress other people. And when we deal with external motivation like that, that's, you know, to have someone else gets to decide if I can feel okay because I'm trying to prove to someone outside of me, we lose that intrinsic sense of I love doing this. And so you might be successful, but when you are successful, when you do dance Giselle, or when you do get a job, or whatever it is that someone's told you you're not going to be able to do, you end up not being able to enjoy that moment fully because you feel like, I got there, I made it. And it's the joy is lost because all you want to do is prove yourself. And so yeah, some of that great reward that, you know, dance, you know, we all love dancing, that's why we pursue it. Some of that love and that joy can get lost, and dance becomes a real serious pursuit that is, so negative motivation really doesn't help us with that. And so when we have confidence issues and motivation is negative, it can affect our performance. Now, some people will thrive on negative motivation. Often in the long run, because we're not getting that sense of reward, it can actually be detrimental to performance in the long run. When we start to ask, why am I even doing this? I don't enjoy this anymore. So if you have any students or any friends or yourself that's wondering, why am I still doing this? You might have to look at some of these things. Because there is joy in there, and I know that in most dances there's a real sense of joy. We just got to find a way to get back to it. So I don't want to make this a bitch session where we talk about, you know, all the terrible things that our teachers said to us, and, you know, try and make them out to be terrible people and, you know, lick our wounds together. That's not what this is about. I really want this time to be a chance to acknowledge some of the criticisms that often we feel ashamed of and don't speak about and don't share together. So if anyone wants to share anything, go ahead and, you know, pop that in the chat and be really bold and encourage each other, support each other. Also, so we want to acknowledge it, we want to be able to heal from it, we want to be able to move on and get back to that positive intrinsic motivation that says, I love doing this. And we want to be able to try and find new ways forward so that we can avoid having these problems come up in the next generation of dancers. So just want to put that out there. This isn't bitch time. This is really, you know, hopefully a healing time. So first I wanted to just talk about why negative comments are so hard to believe. No, sorry, positive comments are so hard to believe and negative ones seem to just cut straight to the heart. Now that's actually how your brains are wired. So our brains are wired for survival, and so if something bad happens or we get some negative feedback, our brain goes, right, that's important because it's going to help me survive. So if you get told, you know, your feet are so bad you're never going to be a dancer, so don't bother, you know, going to full-time training or whatever it is you've been told, then that's your brain goes, oh, important information, I need to listen to this in order to stay safe. Now, unfortunately, we're not living in caveman times, and, you know, our danger response is about, you know, protecting us from bears in the woods and real life dangers, not so much the dangers that are in the ballet studio, although they can feel very real, I know that. But so anyway, we get this, our brains are wired negatively for survival. And so it's a bit like a sieve. Your brain is a bit like a sieve. It lets all the negative experiences kind of straight through, but it catches the positive ones and makes you have to sort of evaluate them before you would let them through. So because of that, because your brain naturally is negatively wired, that's why those things cut so deeply. In order to balance your brain out, in order to help your brain a little bit, we actually, especially when we're not being attacked by bears, we need to start to let go of some of those negative things. And when we do experience something positive, you get any positive feedback, you need to dwell on that and marinate in it and allow it to sink in and really, the more time you spend dwelling on a positive experience, the more likely it is to stick in your memory. And the more you're able to let go of negative experiences, the more balanced perspective you have on yourself. So that's kind of why these things happen. It's not you being, you know, really sensitive. That's actually just the way we are. All humans are like that. Okay, I just want to go back to my slides for a minute, and we're going to talk about a few things that you can do to become more criticism resilient. Okay, so this is important because becoming criticism resilient means that we can feel okay about ourselves, we can have that confidence and that motivation, and it's not dependent on what other people say about us. It's something we can grow in ourselves. It makes us resilient. So if other people, even if other people throw whatever they want to us, we have a way of being able to cope with that. So there's three things I want to talk about today, and that is, one is filtering your feedback. So not just accepting anything anyone says about you as the gospel truth, but just being able to have a filter for that feedback. Remember that teachers are human too, and how to actually forgive and let go of those harsh words that are spoken over you. So let me just come back for a moment. Hi. Okay, so I've got a little a checklist for you. So there's a couple of checklists, one for the teachers, this one over here is for the teachers, and this one's for dancers or anyone who's dealing with feedback. So the teachers could get that too. But this just kind of a checklist to go through to work out how do I actually filter feedback so it's not, I'm not just letting any old message come in, but I'm going to choose, again, I'm going to make my own sieve and say what feedback am I going to allow in, and what am I going to say, hang on, that's not something I want to take on board because it's not going to build my confidence, my motivation, and benefit my performance. So what you need to do is we see what do you want to let in and what do you want to protect yourself from. So there's a few questions to ask yourself. So when you get feedback that's negative, sometimes it's actually constructive feedback. You just get a correction, a technical correction, but the tone of voice that comes with it is the part that cuts you. So as you filter it, you've got to ask yourself, is this feedback true? So if you're just getting a correction and the tone is negative, but the correction is actually useful, then you can allow the useful correction to come in and set aside the tone. So is it feedback true? Does it help me to reach my goals? So is this feedback actually going to help me to reach my goals? So if your teacher says, you've got no turnout, why bother? Don't bother trying. You just might as well quit today. Sorry, this is all extreme, and dance teachers don't always speak this extremely. I'm using these for the sense of hyperbole to explain it. But if your teacher says, don't even bother, or I don't know why you're even here, sometimes we hear those kind of words. You've got to say, is that going to help me reach my goals? Would not bothering or quitting ever help anyone reach their goals? Remember, potential is something that only you can work out. And is it nurturing me? So is this something that's actually going to be something I want to take on, that's going to nurture me, that's going to build me up and help me become the dancer I want to be? So if there's any information in what gets shared to you, what can I take on board? What is going to be useful to me? And then you've got to ask yourself a few questions, to see what you're going to filter out and not let through. And so does this feedback compromise my performance, my motivation, and my confidence? So if I take this on board, is it going to affect am I going to be ashamed about myself? Am I going to hold back in my performance? Am I going to not trust myself and not be able to be confident? Is this going to affect my motivation, where I'm going to start having to try and prove it instead of being able to dance because I love it? So think about, which parts do I want to let go of? And then take on board what you can from it and kind of re-say to yourself, this is the feedback that I'm actually going to take in. So you might be told, you've got no turnout, so don't bother. But what you take on is, I need to work on whatever range I have. I need to find out the exercises and strengtheners that I can do to improve my turnout as much as I can to reach my goals. And, I am going to bother because I love dancing and I want this to be part of my life. So you can take something, chuck half of it out, and keep the stuff that's actually going to nurture you. All right, so you can use this worksheet again. It's at the bottom of the page. If you scroll down to the very bottom, there's a red panel with a pink box on the side that says subscribe. So if you've already subscribed to these regular monthly Hangouts, then don't worry about it. Just fill in the form again. I've already got your details, but that's okay. Fill it in again, and then you'll go to a page that you'll be able to download the checklist from. If you haven't signed up and you want to be able to watch these and be part of them every month, then yeah, you can sign up for it on the same link. So that's that. Now, secondly, where am I up to? Secondly, I just wanted to talk about remembering that teachers are human too. So often dancers or students think only in their own perspective, but a lot of the time there's a reason that teachers are saying the things they say. So when a teacher gets to the point where they're saying, you're never going to be a dancer, they're obviously very frustrated. Now, that could have something to do with you, with your work ethic. That could have something to do with the way you're focused or your concentration, So if there's anything, again, what do I take on board? What do I filter out? If there's anything you need to improve on, then that's your responsibility and your call. But if we look at it from the teacher's side, a lot of the time when they're frustrated with a dancer's progress, it's often not all completely the dancer's fault or the dancer's issue. I know I've been a teacher, and it's very confronting when you have a student or a dancer that is, you can see where they need to get to, but you don't know quite how to get them there. And the things that you're telling them aren't kind of cutting it. So a lot of the time, teachers' frustration is not only about you, but it's also about themselves and their frustration with themselves as a teacher. And I really want you to be able to do this step, or I really want you to be able to get that, but I don't know how to get you there. I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because I haven't taught you. I don't know what it is I need to teach you. And so they can take that out on students or dancers, but often it's a frustration about themselves as a teacher. So just take that on board, that sometimes if your teacher's, getting stressed out, it doesn't always mean it's about you. Take on board what you can, but just remember they're human. They have bad days. They have, bad night's sleep. They've got, a lot of things going on in their life. And so as you're filtering it, go, if that was just them being in a bad mood, or if that was them being frustrated because they don't know how to help me right now, let them hold their stuff and you deal with your stuff. Does that make sense? Hopefully. So the third thing in terms of how you can be criticism resilient is just being able to forgive and let go of the harsh words that have been spoken over you. Now, a lot of the time, the ones that really cut deep are often ones that are spoken to you when you're young and vulnerable and really open to believing everything your teacher says about you before you've learnt how to filter these things. So it's really important that you're able to find a way now to move on from those and to leave them behind you, because you don't want criticism that was given to you when you were 12 affecting your motivation, your confidence and your performance right through your whole career. So we need to find a way to make peace about that. And that's actually a remarkably simple process once we get to the point where we're able to do it and willing to do it. And if anyone needs any help getting to that point, if something's cut really deep, please, get in touch and we can book in a session to deal with that. Okay, so I just wanted to look here. How to let go of harsh words. So, and letting go of these, the first thing we do is we say, I acknowledge what was said and the effect that it had on me. So this is a way of forgiving, a way of letting go. I acknowledge that my teacher said this to me and it had this effect on my confidence, on my motivation, on my performance, on how I feel about myself. And then you say, I choose to forgive my teacher or whoever it was for all of this. And when it boils down to it, it's actually a choice. I just choose to forgive them. I know what they did was not right. And so I'm going to let it go so that I can be free in myself. And that is really all it comes down to. Acknowledging what happened and the effect it had, choosing to forgive the person and letting go so you can be free in yourself. Now, it's really simple, but a lot of the time we don't realize, we think when we're gonna, we're pushing and we're proving and we're working really hard, we think we're doing it for the other person, and we think when we get to that point where we say, here I am, I'm on stage and I'm dancing this role and I'm doing this thing that people said that I'd never do. We think it's about the other person and proving it to them. But, as I shared in that experience of my friend, her teacher had passed away. And so the other person was really not affected by this, the way that this dancer hadn't let go of it. It was only affecting her and her performance. So the other person goes on and they live their life and they don't realize the effect it's having a lot of the time. So forgiving someone is really just about letting go for yourself so that you can move on and you can find peace and you can be free to dance the way you want to dance from the motivation that you want to dance from. So if you have stuff that's gone on, forgive them for yourself. Do it for you. Don't do it for the other person necessarily. Do it for yourself. All right, we've got 5 minutes left, and I do just want to really quickly go through. I've got 10 tips for teachers on how to give effective feedback that's not going to result in problems with confidence and motivation and performance. So I'll just go back to my slides and I'll talk you through these. And for those dancers who are listening, stay tuned, because you might be a teacher one day and it'll be really good if you can learn how to do this well as well. Okay, so how to give effective feedback. To start with, always lock in with genuine, empathetic eye contact. When you're about to give someone some constructive feedback, they need to know that you are on their side, that you are genuine, and that you are trying to help them. And they will see through if you're being fake. They'll be able to tell what's really going on. So be genuine, be empathetic, and make eye contact. The second thing is be specific. Avoid generalizations and statements with words like always and never. So, you always do this, or you never get it right, or you never listen to the music. These kind of generalizations are never true. Never true. That's funny, ironic. But So be specific. What is happening in this situation right now? What happened in that pirouette? What happened in that class? So instead of generalizing, really be specific about what exactly it is that you're giving the feedback about. Thirdly, always look to include strategies for how dancers can change or improve their work. So don't just tell someone that was the worst adage I've ever seen, which I don't recommend you say anyway. But if you're going to, give feedback about their adage, you need to also give them strategies for how they can do it better next time. If they don't know how to do it better, then it's only going to deflate their confidence and it's not going to do anything constructive. So you need your studio space to be a safe space where dancers can learn and grow and start to try and risk things and find new ways of doing things that they haven't done before. So they need to trust you and know that you are on their side and that you're working with them. So fourth, you need to focus on aspect that the dancer has control over. So things about their body or their shape or, things like that. There's some things we can work on. So, your feet, you can work on a lot with your muscles and how you hold your feet, your turnout, these kinds of things. But there's a whole lot of things that we can't control. So rather than focusing on body shape, focus on something they can control, their effort, their alignment, how they apply techniques and learning strategies. How persistent they are, their awareness of their body. Focus on things they can control, and then they'll have a stronger sense of, hey, I'm getting this, I can do this, I can change, I can improve. That's really empowering. Fifth, make sure your expectations are realistic for this particular dancer. So are you expecting a 12-year-old student to be dancing like a professional dancer? Now, a lot of teachers who've been professional dancers find this hard because you know what it looks like to dance, beautifully and, close to perfectly. So looking at this particular dancer right now today, what's a realistic expectation that I can have of them? And that's what you want to communicate. 6, avoid comparing dancers with each other, but rather compare them to their own previous work. So comparing dancers to others, they can't control how the other person dances. So if you can compare them to something they've done before, that will hold them to something they can control. Number 7, state feedback positively. So because you want to encourage competence and confidence. So whatever you're sharing, you need to show them that you're sharing it because you want them to become better and you want them to take risks and step into their potential. So if you crush them, they're not going to want to try and it's actually going to work against them, or they're going to come fight back with this negative motivation that's going to leave them unsatisfied in the long run. So be positive. 8th, notice any positive attempts that your dancers are making to apply their learning. So it's easy to be discouraged. As I said, our brains are negatively wired. So notice whatever your dancers are doing that is showing that they are trying to do what you're teaching them. Encourage them. They will thrive on that and they will want to try harder when you give positive reinforcement. So don't think they'll go slack because they'll think that that you're going easy on them. It actually creates a really thriving learning environment. And the last two, number 9 and 10, are really about the teacher. So learn to control your own mood and take a deep breath if you're getting frustrated. Remember, you're a teacher and often teachers are working with young dancers who are children. You're the adult here, so you control your own mood and you show dancers how to do the same for them. So you're modeling how to cope with difficult situations. So control your own mood. And lastly, make sure you get enough rest, recreation and support in your own life so you don't take your own issues out on your dancers, because sometimes that does happen. So just be really conscious of that and see how you can get enough support in your own life to mean that you're going to be balanced and in control of yourself when you're in the classroom. Okay, so they're 10 tips for teachers. So hopefully you like those and you will find them useful. So I hope everyone has liked today's Hangout. Let us know what you think about it. I've got a survey which you can, there's a pink button just underneath the video screen. So go and click on that, give us some feedback about how you found it, if it was, you know, what was helpful, what wasn't, any ideas about other topics you'd like to talk about at future Hangouts. And if you have any questions for our next month's topic is going to be competition and rivalry. So if you have any questions or concerns that you have that you'd like me to address, then please just fill in the survey and write them in there. That's anonymous unless you want me to know who you are. So yeah, so please fill out the survey. Join us next month, and if you know of anyone else who would benefit from this, please share this. This video will be up for the rest of the month until the end of August, when we'll get the site ready for the next month's workshop Hangout. So yeah, I think that was all. So thank you very much, and have a good month. See you later.